the Albanese government has responded to widespread concerns and dumped its proposed tax unrealised gains on superannuation balances of above $3 million without indexation. When this came out before the election, it's like, no, this won't be on unrealised gains. But they took it to the election and it somehow got through. Instead, Treasurer Jim Chalmers announced another significant change to the Division 296 extra tax on superannuation balances. So to unwrap what the changes are and whether it's a good thing or not is Leith Van Onselen, the unconventional economist, I should say, from macrobusiness.com.au. Good morning, Leith, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, g'day, Jason. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. What's your take on this? I'm hearing from everyone this is a positive adjustment to their plan.
Oh, absolutely. Look, it's unambiguously excellent change. So pretty much everybody hated Labor's policy to basically tax unrealised gains. So I'm talking about, old Labor stalwarts like Bill Kelty, Ken Henry, the former Treasury Secretary, Phil Lowe, the former Governor of the RBA, pretty much all the Teals. Basically, just about every person and their dog hated that policy. And the reason why they hated it was by taxing paper profits or unrealised gains was a massive departure in the tax system from what we usually do. It also would have, raised a whole bunch of complexity issues. So, it would have been incredibly complex to administer. If you're somebody who owns illiquid assets like commercial property or whatever, you're going to have to get those valued every year. Then you'll have to pay taxes on the paper profits of them. Obviously, financial markets are very volatile. So you have some years when the market goes up, you would have to pay tax on the paper profits, and then when they fall down, you've got to have a credit. It just would have been a real unworkable nightmare. And Labor also had no plans to index the amount. So the threshold was going to be kicks in at $3 million of superannuation savings. But obviously over time with inflation, wage growth, etc., after, say, 20, 30, 40 years, a whole bunch of people who were never intended to be brought into that net would be brought into that net.
Well, that's basically anyone who's about 20 years of age now, right?
That's right, yeah. So there was some analysis being done showing that if you commence your working life now, by the time you retire, there'll be a whole bunch of people who'll be pulled into this ridiculous $3 million threshold, right? So, $3 million is the right amount. It probably could even go on a little bit lower if you did it from today, but it needed to be indexed. And thankfully, the Treasurer, after just copping flack for nearly a year on this, finally ceded. And he's changed the rules. So basically, now he's not going to tax unrealised gains. It's just going to be the regular realised profits, which is how we've always done it, and also earnings within the superannuation fund. He's also indexed the $3 million threshold. He's also done some other minor changes. So it's not just so anybody with savings of between $3 million and $10 million will be taxed an extra 15% of the earnings. So currently, people get taxed 15% on their superannuation earnings, and realised gains, and he's going to double that to 30%, which is basically what the industry was asking for anyway. If you've got super balances, but if you've got above $10 million, you're now going to be taxed effectively 40%. So 15% is going to go up to 40%, but that's obviously for absolutely ginormous superannuation balances of above $10 million. It's not going to affect pretty much anybody listening to this. And also, he's also going to apply the tax to defined benefit pensions as well, which is a good thing. So obviously, there's a whole bunch of ex-politicians and judges and et cetera on these incredibly generous taxpayer-funded pensions, and those with big balances there will also get taxed, which is just fair, because otherwise you basically got one rule for us and one rule for them, which is more favourable. So
that's how it normally works. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So overall, look, these are great changes. It's pretty much what the industry was asking for, and what pretty much everyone was asking for from the get-go. So it is good that they've finally listened and backflipped on this. And I'm actually amazed they didn't do it, 6 to 12 months ago, because it was just an absolute no-brainer.
And they took it to the election. I still can't believe they got through with that. Tell me though, this is going to leave a black hole. Like, they were relying on this to gather up about $2 billion or $4 billion in government revenue. Where's that going to come from?
Oh, actually, look, I don't think it's going to have a negative revenue impact because they're still going to basically double the tax on these larger super balances, and for very large ones, they're going to increase it by more than double, and also they're obviously applying it to define benefit pensions.
Okay.
So I don't know if it will actually lower tax revenue much. It still will provide the government with additional tax revenue, which it needs to, and also that there's always the law of unintended consequences when you bring in these new rules like taxing unrealised gains. You don't know how people are going to shift around their affairs.
Yeah.
And often when these things come in, the government doesn't end up gaining as much revenue as they expect. So I think, I don't actually think the government's going to lose much of the anticipated revenue from these changes.
Oh, yeah, and they've pushed it back to July 1, 2026 as well.
That's right. So it was meant to come in at July 1, 2025, which obviously we're past that now. So, it was already too late. So they've just basically pushed it to the 1st of July next year.
Now, I also noted too yesterday that from July 1, 2027, Australians earning between $28,000 and $45,000 will receive an $810 offset at tax time. This will be for their superannuation accounts, won't it?
Yeah, that's right. So basically, under the superannuation contribution rules, we're effectively taxed 15% on superannuation contributions. Now, that harms people at the very low end because their marginal tax rates are actually below that.
Yep.
So the way the government tries to basically, fix that, or at least compensate them, is by giving them a tax offset. So they've just increased the tax offset a bit, which I think is also good policy.
Is there any chance that $810 could be swallowed up by fund fees?
Not really. The way that funds operate, they tend to charge just one sort of expense ratio for across everybody. So I don't think the funds will just target those people directly. I don't think they'd be allowed to anyway.
Mate, good news for everyday Australians, and I know quite a few elderly people or a few older people who have actually retired who were really worried about this. There's some good news for them coming out yesterday. Just finally, was it the Prime Minister that went to Treasury on this and got it sorted?
Yeah, it does seem to be the case. So I think Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was a little bit worried about this unrealised gains policy. So he had mentioned concerns previously, and whereas Jim Chalmers had basically slapped him down and said, no, we're doing it. So I think it might have been under pressure from the Prime Minister's office, which is obviously a good outcome. I mean, it seems like Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has at least listened on this occasion. I wish he'd do it in other areas as well, like
Don't start us.
excessive immigration levels and gas policy and energy policy and all these other areas. But at least on this one single issue, they have listened and they have made a positive change. So I should congratulate them on that, at least on this policy.
I echo your sentiments exactly, Leith Van Onselen, the unconventional economist, macrobusiness.com.au. Appreciate your time on mornings here on 4BC.
Yeah, no worries, Jason. Anytime.
Thanks, mate. There you go. Some good news.